Dating, am I right? It's something that perplexes a lot of my generation. It's something that confuses a lot of people, rightfully so. Dating is sometimes just a bad time, and it can be confusing to figure out what people want from you on both sides. It's not just one person or the other. It's usually on both ends. Things are confusing, and some people want one thing, and then other people want other things, and some people say that one thing is what you're supposed to do, and other people say don't do that, and then other people say absolutely do that. And you just can, there's never one right answer to dating, and it can sometimes be quite frustrating. But I want to give my case for my argument against a lot of bad dating advice that I've heard on the internet, but also just in my daily life. I've had other people my age, like peers, try to give me dating advice, sometimes unwarranted, most of the time unwarranted actually. I never really asked for dating advice, but people give it to me anyway. Like, for example, today I was with a group, and somebody said, you guys, if you like a girl, be persistent and just go after her, and keep going after her. And my first thought was, yeah, definitely don't take no for an answer. It's definitely not the most uncool thing you could do to someone. But there are people who genuinely argue that, like, you shouldn't take no for an answer. And that really frustrates me. But there are also people who, like, you wouldn't think would support that, but they still do. And that really confuses me. I've had friendships, like, not even relationships, just friendships, where with people who, like, would constantly, like, pester me about things and wouldn't take no for an answer, and that frustrated me. Much less when someone is asking you out constantly, like, over and over and over again. Like, that's just not cool. My mom actually told me a story about when she was in high school, where this dude kept asking her out, and she kept telling him, no, I just want to be friends. And then he would, like, leave notes in her car. And I'm like, oh, that's a little, that's pretty weird. That don't do that. That's really creepy. I know, I understand some of you might think that sounds romantic, but it is not. That is creepy. When at any point you go into dating and you are, like, following people around and, like, getting in their space and, like, being in places where you probably shouldn't be in their lives, that is when it becomes creepy. And that is when you are definitely not going to get a yes, especially after they've already said no. That is the point where you should just stop. You should probably consider working on yourself for a while. And I know because when I was in high school, I was that guy who, like, wouldn't take no for an answer and would just constantly, like, be asking the same person out over and over and over again. And, like, it got pretty bad. Like, it made the friendship pretty, like, it strained the friendship pretty bad. It was almost a friendship ender. Actually, pretty much was a friendship ender. I don't really talk to this person anymore, and I mean, I get it, because, I was an obnoxious 16-year-old. And, I've apologized to this person, and we're cool now, but we aren't really friends like we were before all of that went down. But when you go on the internet, there's just a lot of people giving really bad advice, especially directed towards young men, which really concerns me because sometimes you'll start hearing like 13-year-old boys telling like other teenagers, "Oh, well, you're just after my money." And you're like, "What money? You're 13, you know?" It's just really scary to see how much some of these big figures influence a lot of young impressionable brains. I mean, not naming any names, but you probably know some of the people I'm talking about if you've been on the internet before. And if you are a young person like myself watching this, I'm going to give you some invaluable words of wisdom, alright? So listen up. Listen very closely, because and I know you might not want to hear this, but just hear me out. It's as simple as that. Alpha male, I feel like, is just another way of saying a douchebag. If you go around telling other people that you're such an alpha male, no one wants to be around you because you're just a dick. And if you're taking any advice from anybody who says they're an alpha male, they're a dick too. Like, you're not getting any valuable advice from them. I don't care how rich they are, I don't care how successful, I don't care how many women they tell you that they've slept with. They are a douchebag and you shouldn't listen to them. It's pretty much like an immediate tell for what kind of person you're dealing with. And don't take it from me, like, I can't tell you how many times every girl I've talked to, pretty much every girl, at least every sane one, has told me how much they hate alpha males. Like, I know that within the alpha male sphere, you guys think that you're hot shit, but everywhere else outside of that, everybody knows that alpha males are assholes, and everybody hates them. So that's my first piece of that, or not even advice, it's just my first argument, is that you don't listen to anybody who calls themselves an alpha male. In fact, if you go on the internet and you are advertised by anyone who tells you that if you watch their seminar or pay them lots of money, they will tell you the big secret, like, you're being scammed. Like, they're scamming you. Don't even fall for it. Like, if anybody on the internet, or just in general, tells you that if you pay them a bunch of money, that they'll tell you the big secret that they don't want you to know, you're being scammed. Like, that's an immediate tell that you're being scammed. And this goes for, like, so many different things on the internet. Like people who are like there's this one guy I keep getting advertisements for who's like, "Oh, well, if you want to lose weight, stop eating this and start eating this." And then he starts eating like a dozen donuts, and it's like, okay, like, that's not good advice. And he's scamming you. He's trying to scam you. He's trying to get you to pay a bunch of money for his seminar, and then he's going to ask for more money, and then he's never going to give you anything. That's how they do that. Sometimes I see, like, all of the bad dating advice on the internet, and I just, what I imagine, like, the young dudes who watch it think are like, "Wow, really? I can see it now." My second argument is, like I was saying before, if you ask someone out and they tell you no, just take the L and respect their boundaries. I can't tell you how far this will get you if you just respect people's boundaries, and when people say no to something, just let it be. Just take it. Like, don't be like overly pestering someone. And this is why, like, I'm so cautious when people tell me to just be persistent, just keep trying. It's like, well, if somebody tells you they're not interested in you, first of all, like, if you weren't into somebody and somebody asked you out, like, that you weren't into, you're just not into them, right? Like, if you're not into them, that's pretty much it. You're just not into them. There's no, like, unless, like, something in your, like, feelings changes for this person, no amount of asking you out will make you see them that way, right? So you have to be able to see that in other people, because, like, that's how other people who like, when you ask them out and they say no, that's what they're thinking. So when someone says no, just don't, like, just take it, you know, and don't make a big deal out of it, because that's, like, the most not cool thing you could do, is make a huge deal out of it and be like, well, why don't you like me? And why don't you want to go out with me? Well, sometimes it's just like, well, I don't know, I'm just not into you, you know? Just don't be that guy who never takes no for an answer, because it's weird and it's kind of creepy and it's really obnoxious and annoying, and I can tell you, like, verbatim, like, for sure, it is an immediate turn off when you just won't take no for an answer. That is an immediate turn off for people. At least most normal people, in my opinion. Like, almost every girl that I've talked to, pretty much every girl that I've dated, actually, has told me, like, yeah, like, if you don't take no for an answer, it's really creepy. Like, at least for all the people that I've dated, consent is a really big thing. In fact, that's why the people that I dated liked me. It was because I respected their boundaries. It's because I care about consent. I showed these people that I really cared about consent, and that made them like me more. And then we started dating. And, you know, like, they didn't always work out, but it wasn't because of anything anybody did. It was just because, like, it just wasn't the right time, or wasn't the right circumstances, or it just didn't work out. Like, sometimes it's just as simple as that, as it just doesn't work out, and that's it, you know? I feel like a lot of times when people break up, it's like there's Team Edward and Team Jacob, and everybody picks a side. But, like, sometimes it's not that black and white. Like, you can have two perfectly good people, and they're just not meant for each other. And if they break up, that doesn't mean that anybody did anything wrong, or that somebody is a terrible person. It just means that they just broke up, and that's it. Now, if you are particularly a young dude, and you're watching this, and you're thinking, but otaku, no girl will give me a chance. Well, there is stuff that you can do about that, believe it or not. I'm going to give you guys a short quiz. What does the word hygiene mean? Is it A, a hairdryer, B, a sofa, or C, how close people are willing to stand next to you? If you answered anything but C, you probably have a problem. Other things you can do to increase your chances, being just a good person. I know it doesn't seem like a very high bar, but it is. There's a lot of people who are just really not nice and are really unkind to other people, and people don't like that. People don't like people who are dicks. You know, again, like I said, no one likes an alpha male. You know, like, and it can just extend to, like, little things, like smiling at people. Make people feel good by, like, smiling at them. I, like, 99% of the time when I smile at people, it makes them beam back at me, and it's just, it feels really good to me. Like, I love making people smile, because, like, oftentimes, like, when I smile at people, like I said, they'll just beam back at me. Like, it's like some kind of like neurological, like, instinctual response to, like, when someone smiles at you, like, they smile back at you. It's like an instinctual thing. But, you know, like, holding the door open for people, not just for like any specific kind of person, just for everybody. I feel like it's kind of like this thing where it's like, oh, like, dudes should open the door for girls, and they're like, yeah, but, like, also you should just do that, like, in general. Like, that's just a nice thing to do for people. Like, I don't do it for just girls, I do it for everybody. You know, like, when I'm on campus, I'll hold the door open for somebody. And I mean, of course, like, if there's nobody there, then I'll just use the door. But, like, if somebody's in close proximity, you know, I'll hold the door open. And most of the time, if there's another door right afterwards, that person will hold that door open for me. And it's like, oh, thanks, you know? You know, and, you know, other ways to be just a good, decent person, saying please and thank you. I know that's not a high bar, but it is. You know, like just, and, you know, just, like, talking to people, like, with compassion and kindness, you know, like, especially, like, a good way to tell, if you're, like, on a date with somebody, a good way to tell if, like, you don't really know if you want to hang around this person is if they're, like, a dick to the waiter or, like, the fast food worker or whatever. I don't know if you'd be going to fast food on a date. Maybe if you're in a relationship with somebody, but I don't know if you go to fast food on a first date. But, you know, like, if they're, like, a dick to somebody in food service or, like, wherever, like, that's a pretty common red flag for most people. Like, most people would agree that that's, like, a big, like, I don't know if I want to hang out with you. But, you know, the big thing, you know, in this point, like, if you want people to want to be around you, is, like, by being a good person, is being empathetic and compassionate and, like, and understanding and listening to people. Listening goes a long way. Like, I know that, like, there's kind of been this, like, big culture, especially among my fellow Christians, I'm gonna call you out, with being like, oh, we have to own people and we have to assert our dominance and, you know, bleh. Dude, like, just being compassionate and empathetic goes a long way. And I've met people who have been like, well, I'm just not an empathetic person. Well, maybe you should at least try to be. Like, I don't think that, oh, well, I'm not a naturally empathetic person is a valid excuse to just not try and to just be a dick to people. Like, I don't know. I feel like that to me is just like, well, I'm just an asshole, so like why even try? And it's like, well, freaking like you're missing like the whole point. it, it's you no one I mean, I don't think anybody is predisposed to being a dick. I think people I mean, it's just sometimes people just don't want to put in the effort, you know? Because like, being a good person is hard, you know? Like, I mean, I get it. I try to be nice to people almost 100% of the time, and it's not easy. Like, it's a lot easier to just be an asshole to people because, like, you don't have to try to be an asshole. Like, like, it's just easy to be an asshole to people. But when you're nice to people most of the time, a lot of people don't always appreciate it, and people don't always like people take it for granted sometimes, and people will even some people, like some particularly not cool people, will try to take advantage of your kindness, and that's just really like that's you just don't want to be around people like that. Like that's just a recipe for a bad time. Like don't hang out with people who take advantage of your kindness. But that also shouldn't stop you from like trying to be a kind person. That shouldn't stop you from being empathetic and compassionate to people. Like I feel like there's this kind of like easy kind of road to go down where it's like, oh well, people don't appreciate my kindness, so I'm just gonna start being a dick to everybody. And it's like, well, like no, like don't do that. That's bad. Like you shouldn't do that. I guess what I'm trying to get at with this point is like a lot of times I see people, especially on the internet, who are all like, well, why don't people like me? Why don't people want to be around me? But then they treat people like crap, and it's like, well, that's why. Like if you treat people badly, and are like a dick to people aren't gonna want to be around you, and particularly they're not gonna want to date you. At least like no healthy, like emotionally healthy person is going to want to date you. Some people who are just not like emotionally all there will probably date you, but that relationship just isn't going to work out. I've experienced it. I've seen it happen. That kind of relationship never works out. And I think this is a good segue into the biggest point. Relationships are hard but they're also like, relationships are a two-way thing. And I know that's like a really cliche thing to say, but it's true. Relationships take effort from both people. You can't be in a functional relationship with someone if like you're putting in all the effort, but they're not. Like they're not equally putting in the effort, or if they're not trying. I've been in that relationship before. It sucks. It's the worst. And I feel like where a lot of people get caught up in kind of an endless loop is where like people won't be like emotionally like ready for a healthy relationship. Like people will not have a good self-esteem, and they won't like have a healthy amount of confidence, and they won't like be in a healthy mental place, and then they'll get in relationships, and inevitably they get into like a relationship with somebody who's also either not like healthy, or somebody who like takes advantage of them, or somebody who is just like it's just not good to them. And it's just like, it's kind of like an endless feedback loop that I see all the time of people just like, well, I'm lonely, so I need to be in a relationship. And then they get in a relationship and it goes wrong because they're not healthy. And then the relationship ends, and then they're sad again. And then they immediately get into another relationship. And it's like, sometimes you just gotta relax and just be single for a while. I I feel like people don't fully appreciate being single. Like I mean I get it because I'm single and sometimes it gets really lonely and you're like, I just wish I was in a relationship right now. But like sometimes you're not in a relationship for a reason. Like sometimes you have to just take time to get to know yourself better and to build that healthy relationship with yourself and build that like confidence and that emotional resilience, because if you're not all there and you enter a relationship, it's just it 9 times out of 10 it doesn't work out. And it's almost kind of like, yeah, like I'm in a relationship now, but like is it really like, I feel like it's a waste of time almost, because like wouldn't it be such a better use of your time to have built up that healthy relationship with yourself so that you will be in a spot where when you enter a healthy relationship you'll be able to sustain it for like much longer and like last a long time. Like why would you waste your time? Like I mean, yeah, it sucks being alone, but like why would you get into a relationship just for more baggage and for it to go wrong and break up again? You know what I mean? So yeah, those are some of my thoughts on dating in general and why it's confusing and sometimes kind of sucks. But I think that I mean, I know this is really cliche advice, but if you like work on yourself and build a healthy relationship with yourself and honestly don't like even look for it. Like a lot of times I enter relationships when I'm not expecting it. Like all of the people I've dated have always been like, I was not anticipating it. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't like asking. I never was like asking them out relentlessly. Like it kind of just happened naturally. I feel like a big thing is just like, you should getting a girlfriend isn't what you should focus on. What you should focus on is becoming the kind of person that you want your next person to meet. Like you shouldn't be focusing on, oh, I'm lonely, I need to be in a relationship. You should be focusing on, how can I become the person that I want my future husband or my future wife to meet, you know, instead of like, how do I get into another relationship? And also, I mean, I get it because I'm still struggling with that a little bit. Like, intellectually I understand that, and that's why I'm telling you this. But sometimes my brain still has this kind of like pathway of being like, well, I need a girlfriend, and it's like, just chill out. Just chill out. Like, focus on something that you like, or school, or work, or projects. Do something creative. Like, channel that energy into something else, and it'll just happen naturally when you're not thinking about it or when you're not expecting it. Yeah, and as much as I'm giving this advice to you guys, I'm giving this advice to myself because I don't always practice what I preach. So, but if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and a comment and a subscribe, because it really helps me out. And if you don't interact with my YouTube stuff, then YouTube won't promote it, and so it really helps a lot if you engage with it. So I appreciate all of you people who watch the whole video and who engage with my videos and like them and comment them, because I do see you. And I mean, I may not know who you are, but all 14 of you so far, I appreciate you. But with that, I'm going to end it here. But happy dating, I guess, and good luck on your travels, young knight.